Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November 2025 Higher Education Tableau User Group. We're thrilled to have you with us today for a very exciting lineup. We will start with our welcome and announcements. We do have a few of those, but we'll get to that in a minute. Followed by a Meet a Community member with David Ogden, who's joining us from the Renton School District. Then we'll see Kailee Turner and Carl Cortright from Western Carolina University talk about subsequent enrollment dashboard using National Student Clearinghouse. And that will be followed up by Stephanie Johnston from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill with Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And then we'll have our typical wrap up and chat with breakout rooms as long as there's time. So before I get into our announcements, is there anybody in the audience who wants to come off mute and share any announcements or job postings, events? And if you don't want to come off mute, you can also put it in the chat or share it on our Higher Ed Slack channel. Any takers? Guess there's not that much going on as it's coming towards the end of the year. All right, then we'll jump into our announcements. We have a few, starting with call for proposals for the HETW annual conference. We've got some suggested presentation topics, some important dates on the slide, and a QR code that you can scan to find out more. That's going to be April 26th through 29th in Texas, I believe, right? Yeah, Austin, Texas.
And the submission deadline is this Friday.
Thank you for that, because totally missed that. It's right there under the important dates. Another call for presentations is out for the 2026 Research Analytics Summit, which is going to be in Newport, Rhode Island from April 19th through the 22nd. So you could have like a back-to-back with both of these. So session topics and tracks are listed there, as well as session formats. And when is the deadline for this one? December 15th. And if you have any questions about either of those, reach out. We can put you in touch with the right people. And I'll turn it over to Roshni for our next set of announcements.
And it'd be really helpful if I could actually find the mute button properly. So we have another November 21st deadline, and that is IronViz. Win or learn, you can't lose. So if you've never participated in IronViz, it is basically like Iron Chef, where at Tableau conference, 3 contestants have 20 minutes to build a viz on site in front of an audience, and it's super scary. But before we get there are qualifiers. So this year's topic is food and beverage. That's why there's all this food in the bottom right corner there. And you there's multiple rounds. The first round is this qualifier, which runs through the end of the day, Friday, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. Everyone who qualifies puts their vizzes up on Tableau Public. You can also get feedback from the judges. There's a bunch of judges, I think about 30 to 40, somewhere in that range. Each viz will be scored and feedback provided from something like 3 judges for each viz. And it's a really great way to just learn a little bit more about Tableau with, a topic that isn't necessarily what you're doing day to day in your job. The top 10 do get recognition as finalists. They get some swag. And then the top 3, they get to go compete at Tableau conference and win a massive cash prize and a donation to a nonprofit of your choice. So if you are interested in participating, got 2 more days. And if not, go check out all of the vizzes that have been submitted. If you see any that you like, that perhaps by folks who are in the higher ed community, maybe we can have them come here and talk a little bit about their viz at a future TUG meeting. So I think, there's more. Is this also me? It is also me. Oh, Tableau Hackathon. At last week's Data Dev Day, Tableau announced a new hackathon. There are, again, a whole bunch of cash prizes. If you, there's a grand prize and a bunch of sort of best of prizes. But the whole goal is to learn a little bit more about Tableau, about Tableau and Slack integrations, about all of the AI stuff that's happening with Tableau next. And you're not doing it alone. There are resources available, including a workshop tomorrow. There are resource guides, there are office hours. There's just a whole lot of things happening, including a separate Slack channel for the hackathon that can help you upskill on all of these, AI agentic experiences in Tableau or in Tableau and the rest of the Salesforce ecosystem. So again, a great learning experience. So go check it out. And of course, we keep forgetting to put links on this, but we will get the link into the Slack shortly, or into the meeting chat shortly. And with that, I'm going to pass it right back to you, Jenny.
Awesome. So it is my pleasure to introduce David Ogden, who is our Meeta community member this month. David is a French major who spent his career in K through 12 education, including 4 years in university undergraduate admissions. So yeah, he is one of us. So he is now the assessment facilitator for the Renton School District on the sunny shores of Lake Washington. Is that a joke? Sunny shores? Really?
Not sunny some days, cloudy others.
All right, so if you're not familiar, Lake Washington is just south of Seattle, where the Seattle Seahawks have their practice facility. He's the co-lead for the K-12 TUG and a proud wearer of DataFam t-shirts and socks. And he has been a Tableau user and advocate since 2016. In real life, you'll probably recognize him from his UW swag. So welcome, David. We are so thrilled to have you join us today.
Thanks, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so
long time listener, first time spotlight.
Yeah, we've been just applauding David for his wonderful radio voice, and he's going to lull us all into our nap time. But go ahead and start by telling us a little bit about yourself and describing your role and your team.
Yeah, so we are here at the Renton School District. The Renton School District has about 15, well, we're dropping in population, about 14,000 students. 4 high schools. We are in Washington State considered a medium large district, but we're nowhere close to the top districts in the country. And Washington tends to have smaller districts, 295 districts to be exact, unlike Florida where the districts are by counties and other places like that. We started with Tableau 9 point something, and we're now using the cloud. We just started our cloud integration last few months ago, July. And we have several licenses, but there are really just 2 of us that use it a lot. One is a person who is very good at it, and the other is me. I usually often come up with some good ideas because I know a lot about what it can do, but my colleague is just faster than I am. So as I like to say, you don't have to be a data background. I was a French major in college. And you don't have to be young. I'm 56 years old, or 59 now, aren't I? Yeah, sorry, 59. And I still can learn new things in Tableau. But it's a pleasure to be here.
That's funny. My aunt turns 59 today too. So I know the older you get, the harder it is to remember your age.
Harder it is to fake it. Yeah.
So what type of data do you work with?
So we use data from our school information system, SIS, to develop dashboards, mostly along the lines of information that's going to be directly available and important for buildings. Our student information system pumps out really good reports in PDF format, lots of tables, but very few charts. So we use Tableau to visualize the data. We have data about many of the categories that you might expect from a school district, a K-12 district, things around attendance, behavior, grades. We have individual profiles for each student. We have dashboards for each school. And we also have dashboards to help us understand attendance patterns, where maps about where we can provide more resources to where attendance is needed. We also share our data with our community providers so that we have several community providers that are working directly with students so they can take a look also at some of the changes that are happening for the students that they work with.
Awesome. So you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about how you use Tableau at work.
So at work, we use Tableau. I use Tableau mostly as a viewer and a person who helps with editing the dashboards. But in my work personally, I also create some dashboards when I kind of own the data. You'll see one in a moment, more recently around student surveys for our high school seniors about what they plan to do next. In Washington State and in most of your states, our K-12 systems are separate from our higher education systems. And it's unfortunate because that leaves sometimes a big gap between where students are going off to future learning and those learning providers, that big data gap about what are they interested, what can they do? And so we're trying here in Renton and in Washington State to close that gap by sharing more data with our higher ed partners so they can have a better understanding, better recruiting, as there are now declining enrollments everywhere, better recruiting about where we can match students who are interested in the things that others have to offer. So I'll show you a bit of our senior survey.
That's great that you're partnering with your higher ed people, because I think it would be phenomenal if somebody in our K-12 reached out to me and wanted to do the same thing.
You don't have to wait for them. You can reach out too and say, hey, let's put together a data sharing agreement.
That's true. Well, so do you have a favorite Tableau project that you've worked on?
Favorite Tableau project that I worked on is, well, one that we just recently did, though again, I was just the person who said, hey, we can do this. And the other person said, oh, really? It'll take a long time. And said, no. And that is providing a Sankey chart, creating a Sankey chart using Tableau's extension of how we have a program or a push here to reduce dropouts. And so the number one thing that can predict dropouts is if you get an F grade, any F grade in ninth grade. And so we're trying to help out reduce the number of Fs in ninth grade. And we have some pushback from our staff saying, well, you're just trying to give away grades. You're not trying to stop people from getting Fs. And so we did a nice Sankey chart that showed if you're able to get students to have no Fs in ninth grade year, they have high GPAs further on. It doesn't matter if you actually were given a grade the way or not, they end up having higher GPAs than if you're failing a kid all the time.
That makes sense to me.
Well, and the other thing that makes sense is, some of your schools may be the same, but we have a standards-based grading in our middle school system and our high school system. I call it the Wild West. So people throw everything into their grade book, not always just academics or what the kids have learned.
So we know from your bio that you've been using Tableau since 2016. How did you learn how to use it?
So I learned how to use it kind of by just diving in and playing around with it. That may be part of the reason why I'm still at the intermediate level. I haven't taken any courses in it. I use a lot of the YouTube videos. Tableau Tim, if you're out there, love you, man. I got to meet him at the Tableau conference. It was terrific. And that's what I do. I just kind of watch and then play around. I've gotten better at slowly but surely. I got better understanding of what measures and dimensions were differences in that, how parameters work, and all these different things. But if I probably do use it more, if I had it as a daily thing in my life, or if I was responsible for it, and they said, get better or you're fired, then I might start getting better. But I think I'm always just this kind of classic intermediate Tableau user.
That's okay. What's your favorite Tableau feature?
So I use Tableau Prep a lot. So I guess Tableau, I was thinking of the desktop version, but I use Tableau Prep a lot and I'm quite good at Tableau Prep. But my favorite Tableau feature is how you can create your own custom shapes. I really like being able to put custom shapes. We put custom shapes for school logos. We use custom shapes for lots of different things, but I really enjoy working with custom shapes.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun. So is there something in Tableau you would like to learn more about?
In Tableau, would like to learn more about. Well, I just wish I could get better. That's on me. So as my goals, my Tableau goals are to actually some of it's the things we'll be talking about today. I really want to get good at doing the dynamic zone visibility.
That is an excellent one. I use that a lot.
Can't do it yet, but maybe by the end of the session today, I'll know how.
There you go. All right, so if you could go back in time and tell Tableau newbie you one thing, what would that be?
Tableau newbie, David,
Hmm.
spend more time. It's just like anything else. If you want to learn it, you gotta spend time on it and use data that's interesting to you, because otherwise, it's like choosing a major in college. If you're not interested in the major, the topic, you probably won't do very well.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, so do you ever use Tableau outside of work? And if so, how?
I used Tableau Prep once outside of work because I had a spreadsheet of financial information that was in a PDF. I'm like, I really need to sort through this in a faster way. I can't do it. So I actually used the Tableau Prep PDF and was able to get fairly good. It's probably gotten better. This was several years ago. Fairly good information that I needed, and to be able to sort out the financial questions that I had from all of this, just loads and loads and pages and pages of PDF that were confusing to me, and had similar information on different pages, but I need to sort through it more quickly. So that's really the only time I've ever used it outside of work.
Interesting. You should use outside work more.
I know that maybe I'd be an Iron Viz champion. Who knows?
Exactly.
Last year's Iron Viz champion used to be a middle school teacher, middle school math. So
Uh,
there's hope for me.
there is always hope. So, is there anything else you'd like to share before I turn you over to Samantha for your dashboard spotlight?
Well, you mentioned I'm from Seattle, so go Hawks.
Nice. All right, then. Well, Samantha, you're up.
All right. So, David, did you want to share the dashboard on your screen or
Yeah, you bet.
okay? And then I think Roshni's going to put the link in right now. But yeah, so tell us about this dashboard and what you like about it and why you
So
chose
this,
it.
yeah, so this dashboard I chose because it's one of the few that I put on Tableau Public. And I put it on Tableau Public because I wanted to make sure people in our district had access to it. We, for years, have had individual schools do senior surveys about what they're going to do next, but they were never really coordinated. So we're, as part of a grant, we're across the state of Washington. Schools are sharing about how to increase connection between post-secondary institutions and school districts. And what we've done is try to create more connections as well with our local ones, our local post-secondary institutions, by helping them understand what our interests of students are. And one of those to do is just to create more understanding in our district as well about what people's intents are and where they're going. So we have our four high schools here. This was alternative school, so it's a smaller number of seniors. These numbers also help me understand so that you can look at individual schools. So we have that as the shape files there. And we also were able to share with folks that kind of shame them. This is one of our smaller schools. This is our largest schools. But this school has more than 300 seniors, but they didn't have, has the same number, but they just didn't have that same response rate. And by putting this public, it helped a little peer pressure get more. But in essence, down here, you have kids who are in adult, ooh, look at that, kids who are in adult transition programs, a full-time Running Start, a part-time Running Start, and Running Start is our program that allows students in junior and seniors to take college courses, and then just the regular students. But we took their survey data, we put it out through our through our student information system went straight to the students. So we could then track them and then fill in all of their demographic information as well. And it works fairly simply. You just click on one of these schools and it's sorted so you can find out the differences or similarities between where kids are going, where our Latino students are more interested in going compared to other groups, or you can do students who are low income, where they're interested in going and what their things are, and whether down here, whether they completed the financial aid form, FAFSA form. So this is the dashboard that we built to help people visualize some of the data they have. There's other data that came out of the survey that we liked, but this is one that we will have for the next couple of years so that we can track it over time as well.
Yeah, and so I just moved to the Seattle area north of it though, and so I'm thinking I should get something like this with our school districts going, because this is very interesting information. Yeah. But how has this dashboard inspired you at all?
Well, this dashboard hopefully is going to inspire other people, because we also have the information that can go down to the kid level. So somebody can click on this information in a school and be able to find out which kids need more support. So they can get down to the level of, okay, here's some particular student group. They're interested in going to two-year college. Click on that link. And then also they haven't started their FAFSA form. And it's like, well, if they're interested in going and they are particularly low income, then you better help them get ready. So that's what I'm hoping to inspire action through this dashboard.
I love that. Yeah. So lastly, what did you learn from it in terms of either data analysis, storytelling, how it was built, that others in this meeting might find interesting or informative?
Well, some of the things that we put in place here, basically what I did is I copied a dashboard for my colleague. And I thought, oh, if I just copy this, I can build it, make it look very similar to what he's done. But we try to use some of the different visual elements here about not too many colors, lots of good white space. And this one doesn't have a lot of information about how to use it, but hopefully that people will kind of poke around and see how all the things are connected that you can see in here. So, for example, if you just click on one of the bars in the where you're going to study next or financial aid form, it also filters down to the student demographics above.
Yeah, I really like that feature too. It's very intuitive, and I feel like for people who aren't typically data users, they could still do that pretty easily. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least Tableau users. Yeah. And then if we're still in the world like, oh, we really just want a slide of this, they can I can click on things for the slides for their slide if they need a slide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, David. This was, I really like this dashboard, and it gives me a lot of ideas too. Yeah. And specifically seeing some of what you were clicking through. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything else on the dashboard you want to share, or?
No, but I have other dashboards that I'm going to try to improve. One of my other kind of goals in here is to create more transparency about the actual cost of attendance, so that people have a better understanding. My other public dashboards are ones that are in progress. I've gotten some feedback on those already, so I'll have to work on those as well and update the data. But good to know there's another P&W here.
Yes, yeah. Very new though, very new.
That's all right. You've entered the best season.
Yeah, it's nonstop. Well, it's sunny.
Dark gray and rain. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 p.m. and looks like it's 9 p.m. Yeah.
That's right. Thanks very much.
But yeah, I think you're good. Yeah. All right. So next we have our main presentation. So we have Kailee Turner and Cortright here from Western Carolina University. And so Western Carolina University recently created a dashboard utilizing National Student Clearinghouse, or NSC data, to help campus leaders understand subsequent enrollment patterns for students who stop out. So for instance, do they enroll elsewhere? What kinds of institutions do they attend? As well as students who graduate, do they go on to graduate school? This session will briefly focus the session will briefly discuss the pull and transformation of data from the NSC, as well as the dashboard views that were created to share this information with the institutional users. So we have Kailee Turner is a business analyst at WCU. She started out using Tableau in the aerospace industry for program performance analytics, manufacturing efficiency analytics, and finally aircraft quality analytics. That's pretty impressive. Since then, she has made her way to higher education and also volunteers her data viz and GIS skills for conservation nonprofits. If she isn't engrossed in a data project, she's probably unreachable, whitewater, kayaking, hiking, or making upcycled clothing for her many adventures. And then we also have Cortright, who is the data architect at WCU in, I don't know how to pronounce this, Kailee? Did I say that correctly?
Kailee, that's pretty close.
Oh, okay. So over careers spanning multiple industries, including manufacturing, construction, and healthcare, and roles such as assistant controller, project manager, business analyst, IT management, he brings a business process and user-centric approach to data architecture to facilitate organizational change through data. Believing that our work every day should help to bring positive change to even a small part of the world, he is passionate about developing processes and tools that assist faculty and administrators to focus on the thing that matters most at WCU, the success of the students. Horrible at writing biographies about himself in the third person. It took him 2 days to write this paragraph, and I feel you there, Carl. He loves hiking with his plot hound and wife, gardening and landscaping, which is also read as digging holes where his wife tells him to. And then reading, you can find him on Goodreads, and being involved in his town government through the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustments. And I will be honest, I had to look up what a plot hound was when I was first reading your description or biography, and it is a very cute type of dog.
It's North Carolina state dog.
But yeah, take it away, Kailee and Carl, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Can everyone hear me okay? We're good. Okay, good. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started then. I'll share my screen. I wanted to start out by saying thank you guys for having us today. We really appreciate it. And hopefully some of you guys can glean some insights from this or from some of the projects we've been doing. Can you guys see my screen? Is it coming through? Good. Okay, good. Awesome. Okay. Let's get started. Okay, so for data access, we did not put this down to the record level detail, so everybody on campus can have access to this. They can't export any student records or see specifically where one of their students went. And by doing this, by hiding some of that, those data records, we were able to open it up to everyone on campus so they can see trends for their department, program, etc. And this dashboard covers two main groups of students. Students who stopped out from Western and were not retained, and students who graduated from Western. When we jump off, the first page that we have on this dashboard is just a quick summary page. And it's broken into those two groups of students that we were talking about. On the left-hand side, you'll see the graduated students, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see the stopped out students. So we can differentiate those trends between those two different distinct types of students. You'll see some high-level, broad brush statistics. We define student path as what they did, whether they graduated or stopped out while they're at Western, and what they did after they left. So whether they enrolled in a WCE graduate program, whether they enrolled elsewhere at another institution, or whether they just didn't have any subsequent enrollment at all. And then at the bottom, you'll see a broad brush view of the top 5 institutions that those groups of students have chosen. So you can see there might be trends across, no matter what the type of group is, there might be trends for certain institutions that we are competing with or where students are choosing to go. It's pretty simple, but this is the jump off page. So we wanted to include a link for a demo video for new users to access so they can see how to glean insights from this dashboard and how to use it, some of the functionalities. And then also there's the show filters button, which is available on every single view on this dashboard. When you click it, the filters will pop up. These are the standard filters that I put across all the views. Some views have additional filters based on what I thought would be more valuable to that view. But these are the standard filters for how we thought it would be valuable to slice and dice this data. So we have college, department, program, term, year, and whether they were res or distance while they were at Western. These are not applicable to their subsequent institution. Okay. So the next view is broken out by college. So now we wanted to glean some insights based on the type of student that was at Western. We might see different trends for fine arts students compared to engineering students, right? So we have different worksheets all compiled onto this one dashboard. And then at the bottom, there's a color legend that represents all of the institutions represented on the actual complete dashboard. You can see that when you click on the color legend, those trends start to become a little bit more evident. So we see that Southwestern Community College, which is the community college right next door to us, is a top choice no matter what type of student it is, which makes sense. We also offered to the user to change the color. So it's defaulted to institution name, colored by the institution name, but you can also change it based on other attributes as well. So here it is colored by Carnegie Legend, which is a field in the National Student Clearinghouse dataset. So when I click on associate level colleges, we can see that associate level colleges are very popular for students who have left Western and decided to enroll elsewhere. Mostly arts and science students, HHS, which is Health and Human Sciences, General College, and Engineering. All of those colleges have 4 of the 5 top institutions as associate level colleges. So whether they're deciding to pursue more affordable education or whether they're just not ready for the challenging nature of the 4-year institution classwork and want to take a step back, we're kind of leaving that inferences up to the user. I mean, we won't know it, but the deans and the provosts and the department heads will kind of understand what these trends mean to them. And this data goes back, I forgot to mention, this data does go back 10 years. So this entire dashboard is defaulted to 10 years. You can select different years, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm just going to show you all the views I show you are 10 years worth of data. Okay, so the color coding offerings are institution name, which is default, Carnegie class grouped. I kind of manipulated a little bit because there's so many. 2-year to 4-year, public versus private institution size, and in-state versus out-of-state. Okay, so the next view you'll see is a very highly dynamic view. It's a map with some bars, but like David and his view, when you click, other things filter, and it's very dynamic for the user. So because of that, I wanted the user to be able to use it to its fullest capabilities. We decided to offer a new feature, which is a dashboard navigation help button. When you click on it, an overlay appears over the dashboard. It just gives you a broad brush view of what this view is describing, how to reset the view, because some people filter way too deep and they're like, oh gosh, what have I done? There's only 2 students now, right? So resetting the view, there's how to navigate the map, how to click on any point of interest, and then how to filter the data as well. Okay, I'm going to show you guys an example from how to use this type of view to glean some insights. So beforehand, I'm actually going to go back 2 slides. Beforehand, you see that there's a lot of dots on this map, each representing a different institution and the size representing the volume of its students that decided to go there. So graduating students. But when we're looking at retaining students, we might have a better chance of retaining students that went close by versus Utah or Nevada. We're in North Carolina I don't think that has been mentioned, but we are in North Carolina. So it's very unlikely we might retain a student that is choosing to go to Utah or the West Coast. So what I've done is I've filtered it down to the surrounding states for North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. I've also filtered out 2-year institutions. Those are really not students. If they're going to a 2-year institution, we're less likely to retain those students as well. And now I've selected the top 10 institutions, showing that you can select different dynamic views on here to filter. The top 10 institutions that students are choosing. Now the population is down to 1,300 roughly students. Mainly choosing master's universities or doctoral/research universities. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner that there is their subsequent program major. This is the field in the National Student Clearinghouse that is not required for the institution to report. So there actually are a lot of unknowns. Some fields are actually required, such as Carnegie class. So this one does have a lot of unknowns. There are 200, when you filter down the data to this data set, there are 209 unknown records out of the 1,300 or so. So pretty small margin, even though it looks like a lot on that bar chart, it is a smaller margin of error. So we can maybe inference that those top programs that you're seeing are actually indicative of the larger population, that social work, a grad cert in teaching, or nursing are popular choices for students that are graduating. So if department heads are looking to add a new graduate program, perhaps they could go to this view and kind of filter down and see what would be most popular, more strategic business case. Okay. The next view I'm going to cover is our only overtime dimension in this dashboard. It's pretty simple. It's just broken out by undergrad and grad, and then graduates and stopouts, those two groups I'd mentioned previously in the earlier in the presentation. And I'm going to show you some trends that you can inference from this as well. Not filtering the data, all I've done is selected students that left Western and enrolled elsewhere in red, and students that graduated from Western and enrolled elsewhere in blue. You can see where those arrows are pointing that in the first year, there's only 14% of those graduates are deciding to enroll elsewhere versus a huge, very different number, 44% of stopouts are deciding to enroll elsewhere. It's more than double. So you can also see that there is a linear increase year over year for stopouts deciding to enroll at another institution. So it doesn't matter what we can inference that it doesn't really matter how long or how much time has passed. You have the same opportunity year over year to reach out to students to maybe inspire them to re-enroll in the institution or pursue more higher education, which is very different to the trend above. You can see that it starts out 14%, but over 4 years, it kind of plateaus to about 30 to 31%. So maybe if you're reaching out to students, hey, are you interested in coming to Western to enroll in a graduate program? You'll have better odds reaching out in the first 4 years after they graduate versus after those 4 years. Since this data is only 10 years, one of our users had mentioned, I can't remember if it was a dean or a department head, but they had mentioned a mid-career bump. So maybe after they graduate, they decide to start a family, or they decide to pursue a career and they realize maybe this career isn't exactly what I want it to be, or their kids go on to enroll in college, they're empty nesters and they want to go back to college as well. So maybe after 15 to 20 years worth of data, in 10 years, we'll start to see trends of those numbers increasing from 30 to 31% to maybe even a little bit higher. We don't know. So that's something we're going to be looking out for as this data develops. Okay, and David mentioned it in his presentation. We offer a Sync on this visual as well. We are not able to use extensions or plugins, unfortunately, so this was more of a manual build, which was kind of challenging, and it's highly dynamic. So the user can change the left and right-hand side based on different variables and using parameters that change the Dimension 1 and Dimension 2 calculated fields. They can change the left-hand side to college, res distance, program, undergrad and graduate, department, and program. Those are all Western-related fields. And then on the right-hand side, they can choose institution size, 2 to 4 year institution, public versus private, in-state versus out-of-state, Carnegie class, and then degree level awarded. And when they open up that show filters box in the top right-hand corner, that's where the user is able to access changing the view. So they can change the left-hand side, change the right-hand side, and then also there's dynamic filters that match the side that they've chosen. So how I've done that is I've just dropped in those calculated fields, Dimension 1 and Dimension 2 as filters, but those titles don't necessarily change with the selection that they're choosing. So I've just hidden the titles and added a text field with the parameter. You can see the picture there that the user sees. So select Dimension 1, select Dimension 2. And those filters will change to match the selection that they've chosen on the left and right-hand side. Alrighty. I'm going to show you a little bit of a use case because at first glance, at the default view, there's not much inferences that you can glean. But you can see on the left-hand side, I filtered it down to just the College of Arts and Sciences. This is just students that have stopped out. And then on the right-hand side, I have filtered it down, or I've changed it from institution size to degree level awarded. You can see when you hover over the left-hand side, there's a tooltip available with the number of students and the top 5 programs that they've come from. So you can see that students leaving or stopping out of the College of Arts and Sciences are mostly biology, criminal justice, and communication majors. And where they're going and what type of degree they're pursuing after they leave is also important. You can see in this data set that 62% of the data is enrollment no degree, which means that these, and Carl will kind of touch base a little bit more after I get through the dashboard about how the data is structured, but this just means that the record shows that they were never awarded a degree or maybe they're still pursuing it. So, but when you hover over it, you'll see the top 10 institutions that they're going to. You can see that community colleges are very popular for those students. And then the top 3 degree levels awarded. Since I've chosen degree level awarded as the right size, it's not as applicable for this view, but if you're choosing institution size and you're seeing that they're going to larger institutions and pursuing a doctoral degree, maybe that's an inference you can glean from that. Since this view is highly dynamic and Sankey's are not necessarily intuitive for a non-data user, we've offered the same dashboard navigation help button in the top right-hand corner. When you click on it, same thing, reset the view. It shows you how to change the view, explains the dynamic filters, and then also the fixed filters, and then a broad brush view of how Sankey's work and what kind of inferences you can glean from it. Okay. And that pretty much covers the entire dashboard. So I'm just going to pass it on to my colleague, Carl.
Thanks, Kailee. If you want to go to the next slide. So after all of those pretty pictures, you're going to look at a lot of boring text from me, and I'm going to apologize for that. So if you want to just go ahead and load it. So the population, as Kailee mentioned before, there's 10 years worth of graduates from Western, and as well as what we call stopped out students that left the university and didn't end up with a degree. We run those up against the National Student Clearinghouse. So part of this project was first standardizing how we handle our National Student Clearinghouse request process. So we standardize the submission data sets. Now, when I say submission data sets, this is not us submitting our data to NSC. It is literally sending the query file to them. So we run those on a twice per year schedule, one that actually just happened almost exactly a month ago, and one that will happen again in April. And anyone that's worked with NSC data probably knows there's a bit of a lag that's associated there. That's why we don't run it more than twice a year. So what we do is we run all students have ever enrolled. We log each submission into a database table in our data warehouse so we can report out search parameter information and success rate. And because we're a banner school, we use all names that exist for a person in the speakers table. If you want to go to the next bullet. And then we use either a generic start date or a first enrolled terms by person start date in the query. And what I mean by that is we pretty much always use the subsequent enrollment query in NSC, but we have different populations that we can submit to them. So we can do all students, all undergraduates, all graduates, a combination. And the reason we do that is usually for our institutional research office to try to pare down the massive file that comes back. If you want to go to the next bump. And then whatever the latest NSC response file that we get for that query, we load to a raw source table inside of our data warehouse. And then if you want to just put up all 3 of those bullets. Go back one, sorry. So NSC returns are deduplicated. So the response file that you get back, if there's a match on more than one name, sometimes you'll get more than one result. Or if you join it back to the submission table to get different information parameters that we sent to them, there would obviously be more than one row per person, per institution, per program. So we have to deduplicate those things. Awarded programs or last enrolled are returned, which is coming from the last WCU term information. We're fortunate our system office maintains a separate data set of all of our census, post grades, end of term submission files. So we that data in conjunction with some live banner data. And then subsequent institution information, a lot of that extra stuff that you saw on Kailee's dashboard, I'm actually sourcing that from some of the formatted iPad institution reporting tables that we get from our system office. And we use that information for groupings, and we also use a SEEB table, and there's a few, and a FICE table, a few other things that we use in here. If you want to go to the next one. All right. So for finding NSC records, so once we get the file back, we have to obviously join that back to the population data set that I mentioned at the beginning. So what we do is the given date, and I'll go into more detail about what that given date is. We look for the first NSC graduation record that's on or after the date. And if there is no NSC graduation information, we look for the first enrollment record on or after the date. There's been some debate about that approach with, us doing it that way. Like, it misses some of the history, like if they do anything that after they graduate, or maybe they go to another institution after they stop out. To keep this as simple, as user friendly as possible, we made the decision of, we only really care what they're doing when they first come, the first thing that happens after Western. So if they end up being successful at another institution, we want that graduation record. But if they just enroll and maybe they stop out at that subsequent institution and go to another one, that's not anything we're reporting here. We're just reporting on their first institution they went to. So if you want to go to the reporting populations. So these are the 4 different populations that we do. So it's no graduation in career and not actively enrolled. So these are the quote unquote stopped out students. We use the start date of the last enrolled term for the NSC query. If they graduate as an undergraduate, but they have active WCU graduate enrollment, we don't bump those people up against the NSC population, but we do include them in here to indicate that as an undergrad, they came back to Western. And then graduated as an undergraduate and graduate, we use the last graduation date for the student, and we just see if they did something else after Western, maybe went and pursued another undergraduate degree, another graduate degree, whatever. And then graduated as an undergraduate, does not have active WCU graduate enrollment. So we either use the start date of the last enrolled term, and that's if they perhaps started a graduate program at Western but did not finish it, or we use the last graduation date for the student, whichever is later, to bump up against the NSC data. And I think that is it of my 2 boring text slides, and I apologize there is not more pictures in there.
But that's where all of the important stuff happens. So I couldn't have done this without that.
That's where the magic happens.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Carl. Yes, such valuable info. I agree. Carl's done a really great job building this data set, very thorough. So I'll give him a lot of credit. And then the last thing we just wanted to talk about, there's been a couple of resources dropped in the chat, but I wanted to share some resources that I use to build the Sankey and some other things. So if you're building Sankeys manually, there's 2 approaches that you can do, and that's using polygons versus lines. And unions versus aggregation. I decided to do lines with unions. I felt that was a little bit better for this data set. Allison, my colleague, is dropping all the links for you guys in the chat if you want to access some of this stuff. There is actually a lot more. I just wanted to, get this down to a couple of good things. I also have a whole notebook full of other things I saw. I scoured the web for Sankey information, Tableau related, Tableau not. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. But yeah, the first resource is from the data school. The cons is it just didn't go into too much depth for how to actually structure the data and model it. So it's really good for helping you build the calculated fields. The second one is from Data Plus Science. This is also a really great resource for building the calculated fields and an introduction into structuring the data source. If you're going to choose to do it with lines instead of polygons, you're going to have to get into data densification. Obviously, we have data points from where the student started and we have data points from where the student went, but now you need to create data in the middle to actually graph the flow, that flow line, with data that's not really there. So that's where data densification comes into play. And then another tool that I also found really helpful was adding tooltips to data densification. There's a YouTube video with the actual time slot on it that you can access as well. Let's see, and then the other resources, There's a resource dropped in the chat for the overlay. This is the resource we used for overlays. We found it really helpful. And then a Haberstein formula that I found to calculate the difference between two coordinate points. So we were able to calculate in SQL. Carl was able to do that using this formula to see how far the students went from Western to their subsequent institution. And there's also, we've been trying to figure out a way to maybe see how far students are going from their home base. So a coordinate location from their home base to the actual institution they're choosing, whether they're choosing to go to an institution closer to home or further away based on the actual program itself. So we haven't been able to crack that quite yet. That one's a little bit more challenging, but we use that formula. So yeah, those are most of the resources. And like I said, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me or Carl. And Allison is also one of our other colleague members. So reach out to any of us. There's also our team email there. So that goes to all three of us if you guys have any questions, and we're happy to help. And that's pretty much it for me and Carl. Alrighty.
Thank you guys so much. And I will say I'm pretty biased, but the Catalytics team is amazing. And I love any excuse I have to talk data with them. So thank you for being here today and presenting. I think Allison addressed all of the questions as they came through the chat. But if any more come up, I'm sure you can take some time to answer those while we introduce our next speaker. All right, I'm pleased to introduce Stephanie Johnston from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She's going to be presenting Now You See Me, Now You Don't. So Stephanie is fairly new to the data world. She spent most of her professional life as an educator and performer, but then got hooked on databases somewhere along the way, which led her down the slippery slope to data analytics. She has worked at UNC Chapel Hill for 7 years, first in the study abroad office, and now as a data analyst position shared between the graduate school and institutional research. She uses Tableau Prep extensively, but has been rewriting many of her prep flows as custom SQL queries since losing access to Tableau Prep Conductor last spring. I'm so sorry. When she's not creating dashboards, she loves designing intricate sweaters, teaching people to sing in harmony, and learning Argentine tango. So, Stephanie, welcome. I will turn it over to you so you can show us how to mask small n's.
All right, how to suppress small n's.
Suppress.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know when you can see my screen. Oh, we still not showing
Nope,
up?
not yet.
Okay.
Yep. Trying to enter full screen mode now. There you go.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much to the Higher Education Tableau User Group. Y'all are wonderful. I've learned so much from these groups. I love that last presentation. I could go on, but I'll just do my presentation so we're not here all day. So I called this talk, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Because I'm talking about a data technique that for dynamic dashboards, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do something here to there we go. I have this Zoom window that was in my way. I'm talking about a data suppression technique for dynamic dashboards where you can pop data in and out of the display as the user is changing the view. So I know as a dashboard designer and analytics person, I'm always trying to empower my users to allow them to see and drill down into as much data as possible. But sometimes that's just not a good idea, especially when we have low numbers. For one thing, small numbers can be kind of misleading and make people think that they're seeing trends when they're really just seeing noise in the data. But I do a lot of work with confidential survey data. And so I'm usually more concerned about privacy when I'm looking at masking or suppressing. And so I did want to talk a little bit about masking versus suppressing. So when you're masking, you're showing that there is a data point there, but the user just can't see what that data point is. And that can work great in some situations, but it's not going to work well in every situation. Sometimes you just need to take the data out of the data set altogether. And so why would we need to do this? Let's say that we've got a confidential class survey when we're looking at data that's been broken out by student demographic. So in this view, we have this lone international student in this very small class, and they just don't have any anonymity. So the instructor is going to know exactly who gave them a very poor rating. We could try masking, but the instructor knows that they only had one international student in their class, so that doesn't really help. And it doesn't help to mask with percentages either. So for this particular class, it's just not appropriate to break the data out this way. But for larger classes, even other larger classes that this instructor is teaching, it might be just fine. And so how do we balance the user needs to be able to drill down into their data and get as many insights as they can with the need for data privacy? And this is a question that came up for me because I have this large exit survey dashboard that I administer for the graduate school, or I administer the survey, and then I have a dashboard that shows all of the data. When a user logs in, they're only seeing data for their own program. So we've got row-level security set up. And then they want to be able to drill down and look at academic plan because we have some programs that have, master's and PhD and maybe some other plans in there. And so sometimes these views are going to yield small numbers. So what I've been doing in these cases is I've just been taking those plans out of the data set. So if we have a plan where we've got fewer than 5 graduates or respondents, and all of our graduates respond to this survey, we're taking them out of the data set. But our users wanted to be able to drill down into the data a little further. They wanted to be able to do comparison groups by demographic. They also wanted to be able to see trending over time. And then this is a pretty large data set. We're showing about 10 years worth of data. And for some programs that have larger numbers, they wanted to only look at the most recent few years so that they're not just aggregating for like what everybody has said for the last 10 years. So we wanted to be able to give them these views, but these views were exposing small numbers for some of our academic plans and some of those views. So I wanted to be able to create a dashboard that would let everybody drill down to the smallest level of detail that was possible for them while still protecting respondent privacy. So this is not the dashboard because I can't show you the actual dashboard because it's confidential stuff. But so this is a little fake dashboard that I made with a little fake survey. And I'm actually going to show this to you on Tableau Public so that we can see. So this is a massive 2-question survey. How do you feel about axolotls? And what is your favorite thing about axolotls? Highly confidential, highly sensitive data. We don't want people to know who is answering that they think diamphibious scum is the best answer. So when our users log in, they are, sorry, I've got to move this out of my way again so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, zoom, zoom, zoom. So when our users log in, they're generally just going to be seeing only the data in their own program. So let me just filter down to that view for a minute. So somebody from anthropology will log in, and this is what they will see. They'll see a list of their 2 plans and then how many respondents they have in this data set for those 2 plans. And this is a 6-year survey, as we can see up here. And they are seeing aggregated data down here for both of their plans, but they're immediately probably going to go in and just filter down to look at one plan at a time, because that's really what they want to know. They also have the ability to go over here and drill down to just the last 4 years worth of data to see more recent data. If they do that, however, and I don't know if it's because we're on Zoom, but something is not working. So I am going to, I'm going to remove that filter. Here we go. So if they do that, they're going to see that suddenly that we have the smaller data set. They only have 3 respondents, and we're only going to be showing data for plans that have at least 5 respondents in this view. So because now we have a smaller data set, they have a little message that pops up and says, data for the following plans has been removed from this view. Anthropology is no longer visible. And so now these 2 graphs are only showing data for this one plan, and they no longer have the ability to go in and view the anthropology data in this particular view. And then we have a few other things that we can do over here with this other parameter, but I'm actually going to take us out of this view for a minute, and we're going to look at all of the data at once. So just in case I didn't explain this clearly enough, we've got our respondent data down here, and then we have just a list of all of the different academic plans that were involved in the survey, and then the number of respondents for each plan. And as we change the view with this parameter, you'll notice that suddenly we're able to see this plan again, but we're still not able to see this plan. They just don't have enough data at all to show any of the views. We also have another parameter over here where they can dynamically change the view. Right now, we don't have any comparison type set, but they can compare international versus domestic students. And we have these lovely stack bars that I hope Steve Wexler is not on this call. I know he would hate these. But we see that suddenly we have a bunch of small cell sizes. And so we have to pull these plans out of the data because we don't want people to be able to drill down and look at one of those plans. So any of the plans that are left in this view are going to only be the plans that are not being suppressed. So we don't want people to be able to drill down and, for example, look at the geography master's program and be able to figure out who this one international student is and what they answered. We can also show change over time by breaking out by individual academic year. When we do that, you can see that we have a whole bunch of small cell sizes that are showing up here. And so a whole bunch of plans are getting pulled out of the data. The only data that we have left aggregated down here is for these 4 individual plans up here. But you'll notice that we have a little message that pops up and says, okay, well, if you're not seeing what you want to see, try displaying by academic year group to show more results. And so what I've done is I created another variable where I just group together 2 academic years at a time, called that academic year group. And so now we only have 2 plans that are getting suppressed here. All the other plans can now drill down and see their data broken out over time, even though it's not quite to the smaller level of detail, but they can still see a little bit of trending over time. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what the end user experience is like. They can drill down and see different views, but if they get to a view where it's not safe for them to see because of small cell sizes, then that whole plan is just pulled out of the view. They can't see it in that view, and they'll have to look at a different view. So let me just talk a little bit about how this works behind the scenes. So data preparation is the key. So I tried to figure out a way to do this using LODs, which are the bane of my existence. And I finally gave up. I just don't know that there's a way to get Tableau to aggregate in the dashboard and then to be able to apply that aggregation across the rows. Although if you're an LOD expert and you have some information about this that might be helpful, please tell me. But so what I did is I just, in the data transformation process, I just created a second table that acts as my control table for every single possible view for every single academic plan in the data. And so this is what my original data set looks like. Every single record here, this was data from a Qualtrics survey. Every record has a little bit of information. It's got an ID number, information about the academic plan and unit that the student was in, information about their demographics, their graduation year when they took the survey, and then our 2 questions show up here with the values for their responses. And then I do a little bit of transformation with that survey data. I'm pivoting for every record. Now I've got 2 different records, one for each of those 2 questions in the survey. I've pulled in the text for the questions and the answers for the survey. I created those year groups, and then I created a true-false variable to flag whether or not it was in the last 4 years worth of data. But then I've also created this table that just has 1 academic plan per row. And then I have all of these awkwardly named variables that tell me for each of these views, are we meeting the threshold? So none is the default view where we haven't selected any kind of comparison. And then we have a corresponding, if we filter down to just the last 4 years, and we haven't selected a comparison, then this would be that view. We've got the view for international versus domestic. We've also got the filtered view of international versus domestic, just looking at the last 4 years, and so on. And so for each one of these views, we've got a true-false value saying whether this plan can be displayed in this view. And then I've also got our threshold showing up here. And so I'm going to go through the data prep just in case it's not obvious to you how to create this table. I'm going to just show you my, are you all able to see my prep flow here? I'm assuming yes, unless somebody says no. So this is my prep flow. I'm going to go through this in the PowerPoint, but just to give you a sense of what this all looks like, this part is just the flow that is doing all of the steps I just went through. This is my data. I'm creating a couple of variables that we looked at. I'm pivoting, I'm pulling in the text, and then I'm just outputting that data set we looked at a minute ago. But then after I create those two new variables, I've got this whole other branch, and I'm just going to zoom out so that you can see that what's going on here, after I add my threshold variable, I just have a whole bunch of parallel steps where I'm just doing an aggregation calculation to figure out for each of these views, is it okay to show the data or not for each academic plan? And then I'm pulling it all together and outputting it into that table. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. It may be really obvious to you all how to do these steps, but I'm just going to go through them just in case it's not obvious. So for the threshold step, I'm just creating a threshold field that is, the value is 5. For the first variable, that none meets threshold variable, I'm grouping on academic plan. I'm pulling my threshold variable over, so I've got it to use later. And then I'm just doing a distinct count of how many different record IDs I've got for each of the academic plans. And then in the next step over here, I'm just creating a variable that says if the count is below the threshold, then false, none does not meet threshold, else true, none does meet threshold. For my next variable, for the domestic versus international view, I'm doing the same thing, but I have to add a little pivot step in here. So I'm grouping on academic plan. I'm also adding a grouping on that variable of international status. And then I'm getting a count for each of those different cell sizes. And then I'm going to have to pivot because I have 2 rows here. I'm going to pivot to get both of those rows, both of those counts in a single row, so that then when I do my calculation, I say if the international count is below the threshold, or if the domestic count is below the threshold, then false, we cannot, it does not meet the threshold, we can't display this academic plan, else true. And then I'm going through and I'm going to do the same thing for the years and the year groups. I do just want to point out that I do this every year. And so every year I do have to go in and change the year names so that I'm looking at the actual years that are in the new data set because I'm adding data every year. And then I'll have to do the same thing for the year groups, and I'll have to recreate those year groups in my prep flow. But really very straightforward. So that's 4 different variables for those 4 views. And then we have to do another set of those 4 variables with where we've just filtered our data down to the last 4 years. So we're going to apply a filter to the data set and then just repeat those 4 steps that we just went through. And then at the very end, we're going to pull everything together. We could do joins, but in Tableau, as far as I have been able to see, you can only join 2 tables together at once, which is very annoying. I did not want to put 7 joins in here. So I just did a shortcut where I unioned all of them. And then I have all of these variables that have a whole bunch of null values, except for the 1 row that I created in these steps up here. And so I do a union, and then I do a group by plan, and then I can just take the maximum or the minimum value for the variable, for each one of the variables, and that will just give me the one non-null value, and that I'll have a row for every academic plan again, and then for each of those awkwardly named variables, I'll have a true or a false value. So I'm doing this in Tableau Prep, but you could probably just do this data prep in whatever data cleaning tool that you use. I also, as Jenny mentioned, I am doing a lot of stuff in custom SQL queries now. So I did make an attempt to put this process into SQL. I am not great at SQL, so I'm sharing this in case it's useful to you. This will be in the PowerPoint that you can see later. I'm not going to go through all of this, but if there isn't anybody who on the call who is a SQL whiz and would like to rewrite some of the SQL for me to make it better, I would love to know that. So please let me know. So once I have those two tables, going back to the dashboard, this is my my data set view right here, and I'm just pulling in. This is the data from the survey itself that I outputted, and then this is my control table, and I'm just pulling them both in, and I'm doing a join on academic plan. And so when we get into the dashboard, these are my variables over here. I just have a folder of all the data suppression variables. These are the ones that I created in that Tableau prep flow. And then I've got this one master calculation that I'm pulling together and using as a filter. And all this calculation is doing is it's just a nested case statement where it's looking at our two parameters, the parameter where we select the time frame to look at all the data or just the last 4 years worth. And then it's looking at the comparison selector to either have no comparison, look at international status, look at year, or look at year group. And then it's just saying which of these, what combination of parameters do I have set? And that tells me which of these variables I should point to for my filter here. And just to go over to the dashboard itself, and just so now we have that lovely calculation, we can just go over to, so for example, I've got this graph here. I want to apply that filter to this graph. I'm just pulling it up here and setting it to true. But I do have a couple of places where I want the filter to be set to false. So I only want to display these messages up here, and I only want to display plans that are being suppressed if we have a false value. And so if I go over to one of those sheets, you'll see I've pulled this same filter up here, threshold met, but it equals false. And then remember that I have, if we have display by academic year set in this comparison selector, we have this extra little message that pops up. And I've got a few dynamic message things like that that you can see if you want to download this dashboard from Tableau Public. But this is just controlled by a little years message calculation that, again, is just looking at the calculation that we just created, the threshold met calculation, to see if it's false. And then it's also looking at the comparison selector to see if it's set at year. And if both of those things are true, it's going to give me this message. Otherwise, it just gives me an empty string. And then over here on my text label, which is what I'm using to display this text, I just pulled that calculation in so it will show up or not show up as needed. And so that's really it. I feel like this is super simple, but I've never really heard anybody talk about this technique. I mostly hear people talk about masking. So if you have some kind of dynamic data suppression technique that you're using that's either really different from this, or it's very similar to this, but it's better than this, please be in touch and let me know, because I would love to be able to improve what I'm doing and make it better for my users. I'm going to share this this presentation, so you'll have my email address and you'll have my LinkedIn, my profile if you want to contact me that way. And so that's it from me. Does anyone have any questions for me? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see what's going on, if I can find my Zoom window. All right, well, that's it for me. Thanks so much for giving me the chance to present today.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
Yep. I was going to say, I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anybody thinks of any, then go ahead and put them in there.
That was great, Stephanie. So much, like, it really is a simple technique, but there's a good bit of work that needs to go into it, and you laid it out pretty well for us. So thank you. With that, we are going to close out today, and we want to know what you thought of today's meeting. We're going to throw some links in the chat just now. And And we want you to go ahead and sign up for our next meeting of the December HETUG. It's going to be on December 17th. As we always do for our holiday meeting, Ginny will be sharing her new Mad Libs, her new holiday Mad Libs. It'll use parameters, and there might be an ugly surprise to come along with it. We're going to continue the conversation we ran out of time for in October about looking forward to Tableau Conference 2026. Maybe, just maybe, the call for proposals might be open. We don't know. And we're also going to have some swag to help you get through the holidays, or at least celebrate the post-holiday, freezing cold January mess. I don't know. I'm just expecting the weather to be awful, at least in Boston, and that's what I think of as January. And we're very, very excited to also have from the University of Texas at Austin, Matthew Miniot and Chris Robinson talking about Tableau style guides with the art of alignment, standardizing Tableau with style and color. And as always, yes, the misery of January, that is the correct term, Virginia. And with that, we also want to let you know that we have dates set out for all of our 2026, or at least the first half of our 2026 HETUGs, so January through June. And if you want to present, please let us know. Go to tinyurl.com/present@HETUG. And again, the link is in the chat, and it's also on the Higher Ed Tug website. So with that, thank you, everyone. Oh, wait, hold on. No, there's more. We also want to celebrate and let you guys know about some upcoming events. So the Analytics Tug has a couple of cool events, one that's tomorrow and one on December 11th. The Data Plus Women West Coast meeting, I think this might be their first or one of their first. They're meeting on December 9th, and they're spotlighting one of Higher Ed's own, Lisa Trescott. The Tableau Public Tug is having a holiday Viz of the Day Viz Buffet. And the CCC Tug on December 10th is going to have a TC Encore from Preeti Lodha, and then Kim Coots is talking about something that's really cool that I've already forgotten. Ginny, Sam, tell me what it is, because I remember
Mobile layouts.
Mobile layouts. Yes, mobile layouts. So we're looking forward to that and hope you can join. And if you haven't heard, there's a new viz out there about all of the Tableau user group events. And I'm about to put that into the chat as well, so you can check this out. You can look for, it's a little bit easier to navigate, I think, than some of the than what we have on the main user groups page. It was actually developed by folks at Tableau, so it's all official and everything. But it's a really great way to see what tugs are happening. A lot of them are virtual, so you can always check them out and see, oh, hey, look, I have a break. I need something to do at lunch, so I'm not just doom scrolling or whatever. You might have a cool tug to attend and learn something. And with that, thank you everyone. Thank you to David for letting us interview you, for Kailee and Carl for presenting, and Allison for answering all those questions in the chat, and also Stephanie for reminding us that masking and suppression are two very different things, and it's worth knowing how to do both. So we hope to see all of you again next month, and we want to thank you all for attending as well. So